I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. This extraordinary sourced quote from Trump was put out by Mike Allen of Axios.com, co-founder of Politico, at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. The Trump quote is so stark, so shattering, so unprecedented that, in fact, it should have been saved for noon on a weekday and have been preceded by a whistle loud enough to be heard by everybody in the nation, commanding them to stop what they were doing and listen to it. A Trump advisor says that after a tumultuous 7 months in office, it had finally dawned on the president, quote, "People really effing hate me." Donald Trump and I agree on something. You and I know people really effing hate Trump. We are some of the people who do. But this, at nearly 8 months into his presidency, more than 71 years into his life, is apparently the first time it or anything like it has gotten through to the future ex-president himself. It had finally dawned on the president, people really effing hate me. For someone who has spent his life lapping up adulation, however fake, it was a harsh realization. This is a man with an especially acute need for affirmation. No kidding! This revelation explains Trump's entire existence and Trump's recent otherwise inexplicable accords with Democratic leaders like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. And it even provides cover for Democrats and others who see the necessity of removing what a Fox poll showed 60% of us agree is an unstable man from the White House. While Mueller slowly builds his case, while Trump's popularity sinks, and at least some Republicans begin to be faced with the choice of repudiating him or not getting reelected, while his connection to reality continues to fray, while all that happens, everybody can just soft soap Trump. Trump has had a moment of reality worthy of a Shakespearean tragic hero, that lightning flash of self-awareness that we effing hate him. And thus we may be able to continue to play him like Schumer and Pelosi did, like the proverbial $2 banjo, to minimize further damage to the very fabric of human civilization. And the political conventional wisdom again rushes to reassure itself that its cliches still work, that he's pivoting in some way, that he's suddenly a cross-party pragmatist, that he's an independent, that he's a blah, 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 blah. Nonsense. He's right this time. We people just really effing hate him. May I remind you of the headlines of the last 6 weeks? After the Nazis and the KKK rallied in Virginia, Trump made a boilerplate statement about blame on many sides. Then Trump issued a generic statement that somebody else wrote. Then Trump repudiated that statement in a news conference of uncontrolled rage in which he shouted about how both sides were equally guilty. Then Trump held a rally at which he read back his first statement but left out the part about many sides. Trump threatened North Korea with fire and fury. Trump threatened South Korea economically. Trump threatened Venezuela. Trump went back and threatened North Korea again. Trump pardoned Joe Arpaio. Trump said he pardoned Arpaio during a hurricane because the TV ratings would be higher. Trump tweeted during the first hurricane, plugging a book by another infamous now former sheriff. Trump then tweeted during the hurricane about building a wall to keep out people of the same heritage as a huge percentage of the victims of the hurricane. Trump traveled to Texas twice during that hurricane. The first time he saw neither a victim nor a storm. Trump demanded tax cuts for rich people to be speeded up because of the second hurricane. Trump referred to the Coast Guard during the second hurricane as a, quote, brand that has, quote, improved. Trump was repudiated about civil rights by his own Secretary of State. Trump was repudiated about transgender rights by his own Secretary of Defense. Trump was repudiated about anti-Semitism by his own chairman of the White House Economic Council. Trump was so mad at the chairman of his White House Economic Council that he reportedly refused to make eye contact with him. Trump's former senior advisor said in a TV interview that any senator or congressman who voted to impeach Trump would be endangering their own lives and that there would be a civil war. Trump reneged on the promise of DACA, blamed Congress, and then made a vague promise to the Dreamers in a tweet. Trump turned out to reportedly have written a first draft of a letter justifying the firing of the FBI director for not clearing him on Russia. Trump turned out to have at least weighed in and maybe just wrote the untrue statement issued by his own son about a meeting his son had with middlemen his son believed were giving him Russian government dirt on Hillary Clinton. That's all just in the last 6 weeks. One would think that even in the warped minds of those who think all of that was good news, there is one basic human emotion. Enough already. I'm exhausted. I want to watch something else in my life besides Trump. The key thing about tragic heroes, from the plays of the ancient Greeks through Shakespeare, is that they all have that moment of revelation, that epiphany of, Lord, what have I done? The people effing hate me. But from Oedipus to Hamlet, it has to come too late to make any difference. And usually the tragic hero is still not getting some of the message that the universe is sending him. Thus, if the Trump, quote, presidency, unquote, is classic tragedy, then the quote that Axios attributed to a Trump advisor was necessarily missing a couple of words. It isn't people really effing hate me. It's we the people really effing hate you. Resist. Remove. Peace. My new book of these commentaries and other writings, which I really should have called People Really Effing Hate Him, is available for pre-order and will be out October 17th. I know. I just said even those who like Trump are exhausted by him. I am too. Just buy the book and wait for him to go and then read it a couple of months after that. Thanks.